Welcome to Brutally Honest Talk Radio, where you will learn about an issue minus the BS. We don't always say what you want to hear, but what you need to hear about the issues of the day. Here's your host, Inger, along with Elmo, with his political insight and commentary.
This show, we're going to talk about Trump's recovery from COVID-19. And I say recovery with an asterisk on it. So we'll go into that. Just heard that a couple hours ago, he was dispatched from Walter Reed. We're going to discuss mail-in ballots again, because that's still a thing. NBA viewership on the finals, the lowest it has ever been, or lowest has been in a long time. So I guess we'll start with, just heard that a couple hours ago, Trump was discharged from Walter Reed Hospital. So I want to give two reports on that are kind of opposite about it. But this is a fact. Donald Trump walked out of the hospital. He walked out. He wasn't on a gurney. He wasn't on crutches or in a wheelchair or being assisted by anyone else. He walked out of there, walked down the steps, and got into the helicopter by himself. And we know that over the last couple of days, he has put a couple of videos out thanking people for their prayers and well wishes. And he looked good in the video, or looked fairly strong, and saying that he's getting better or over the hump and is going to be back soon. I'm thinking this is good news. This was a surprise to me. I was thinking that 2 to 3 weeks he'll be hospitalized. Though I know a couple of people who got COVID-19 since the summer, and they never went to the hospital. So it's obviously some different strains of this thing going around. Hopefully weaker strains now than there were. But so that's one good report, or one good thing, is that he walked out, he looked strong, he got in there. And then there was another report on another network. This is from a doctor named Sanjay Gupta, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, an Indian, very educated doctor, who said that it is irresponsible and reckless for Trump to be leaving the hospital at this time. He said this is reckless behavior, and that Trump had his mask off, and when he walked out of there, a reporter ran up to him to take his picture, and he was putting a reporter at risk. And Gupta also said that the 7 to 10 days after you first test positive for the virus are critical. And there can be a spike, or things can go left or go right and change from how they have been.
Doctor, but yet and still he has such an opinion about what he should be doing and that sort of thing. That makes no sense. Again, that's just an attention grab is all that is. That's just a bout to get attention.
Wouldn't be funny if tomorrow Gupta announced he's coming out with a book?
Exactly. I mean,
I don't know, but you look at this year and how things have gone from within Trump's own family and Woodward, and people making a name for themselves.
yes, on his back. Yeah, it's just obviously if he's going outside, then one, you don't need to wear a mask, from what I understand, in the fresh air. That's obviously not the case. Number two, he's at Walter Reed. So if Walter Reed is good enough for our soldiers, and I'm sure they see soldiers constantly, then there is also good enough for the president. Number three, the president is doing what his doctors are advising him to do. Now, just because Gupta has a different opinion does not make it right. It just makes it a different opinion. So, again, it's just a way of getting attention on Trump's back. That's all this is.
And since it hasn't been at least 7 days yet since Trump, I don't want to say contracted the virus, but since he tested positive, because this was after the debate last week. Mm-hmm. It hasn't been 7 days yet, so it's hard for me to speculate on what will happen or if there will be some kind of a change. However, Trump needs to take it easy, and I'm sure that the people around him are advising him to do that. Now, it was also said that the way that the White House is set up is very similar to, on the same level of his facility and his hospital room at Walter Reed, that he has all the same nutrients and tools and equipment, and there are medical professionals that have committed themselves or made themselves available at the White House to, to watch him and to keep up with him.
Yes. Yes. So
Now, there's,
hmm
I don't know if you saw, there was a press conference from the staff at Walter Reed, and this was a couple of days ago when he was still there, and they were speaking to try to brief people and let them know what his status is. So I saw this video, and I wanted to play some of it. I know that Trump is out and he's been discharged, but listen to the dialogue in this video. And the main thing about it and why I want to play it now is the questions that the reporters are asking. And the doctor is doing a good job of answering. But again, he doesn't want to speculate. Nobody does when they don't know and they don't want to be wrong later, especially a doctor, and then they call him a fraud. So just listen to how they go back and forth. And this is more it was 10 minutes long. This is more the second half of the conference and how they're pinning him to the wall with the questions. And it's just more, the questions are based in more of a negative nature.
Is the probability that he will need supplemental oxygen going forward?
I don't want to put a percentage on that, but right now all indicators are that that he'll remain off of oxygen going forward.
And in terms of like blood clots, pneumonia, bacterial infection, what do you see as the risk on that front?
Well, we know that all of them are risks associated with this condition. He is receiving all of the standard of care and beyond per routine, international COVID protocols. So we're monitoring for all of that, but at the moment, there's no cause for concern.
You said he's fever-free now. What was his fever when he had one, sir?
I'd rather not give any specific numbers, but he did have a fever Thursday into Friday, and since Friday morning, he's had none.
Okay. And what was the date?
On top of the other antibodies.
I'm sorry?
Why remdesivir on top of the antibodies?
So remdesivir works a little bit differently than the antibodies. We're maximizing all aspects of his care, attacking this virus, multi-pronged approach. As the president, I didn't want to hold anything back. If there was any possibility that it would add value to his care and expedite his return, I wanted to take it. And the team agreed, and that's why we proceeded.
Doctor, what was the date of the president's last negative test?
I'm not going to get into all the testing going back, but he and all the staff routinely are tested, and so.
Doctor, what is the PPE protocol for President Trump receiving visitors and doctors?
It's the same as any hospital has. We have an area that's clean that you put your equipment on, and then beyond that, everybody is fully gowned up, masked, gloves. We're protecting ourselves and him.
Have you done a screen? Has there been any sign of any lung damage whatsoever?
We are following all of that. We do daily ultrasounds. We do daily lab work. The team is tracking all of that.
Has there been any sign of damage, sir?
I'm not going to go into specifics of what the findings of any of
If we just
that
put you down
are.
on one thing, has he ever been on supplemental oxygen?
Right now, he is not on
I understand.
oxygen.
I know you keep saying
That's
right now, but should we read into the fact that he had been previously?
Yesterday and today, he was not on oxygen.
So it started off more friendly at the beginning when it was, okay, the doctor's going to speak now and enlighten us about what has been going on. And then you see that's, like I said, that's more halfway through. And they're saying, did he have a fever? Was he on a ventilator? Can you give dates about? I don't know. I mean, why don't we just learn and find out the state that he's in now and what he's doing? I mean, do you want him to be on a ventilator? That's a hard machine. It's been tough for people to survive and puts a lot of pressure on your body. He said he's not on it now. if he was on it before and he's not on it now, the only way that can happen is if he's improving. So they just, those last several questions were just negative. And well, did he have a fever? If he did, what was his temperature? Well, he is the president, and you don't want to put anything out that you don't have to put out about. Oh yeah, well he got up to 106. It was touch and go there for a while. We didn't know. We're telling Pence to get ready, get ready to usher himself in. I mean, look, he's talking to us and letting us know what needs to be put out there, what people need to know.
Yeah, the reporters are obviously coming from a specific viewpoint and just looking to confirm their own viewpoint instead of truly inquiring what is going on. They asked, what was his fever? That sort of thing. They didn't ask what were his symptoms. I don't know if someone asked what he was taking, the treatment regimen that he was on. I don't know if anybody asked that. But it's this aggressiveness of wanting him to be sicker. It's
Right.
is he getting better? Is he tired? Is he lethargic? Is he eating? That sort of thing. No
Yeah.
one's asking. They're just, what was his fever? And was he on the ventilator? And no, it's like, they're not reporters. Again, they're not journalists. They're just opinion people.
It's almost like somebody was about to say, Donald Trump, he needs to be hospitalized and in a bed until November 2nd, right? Doesn't he? Doesn't he need to stay in a bed? He doesn't need to campaign at all, right? He's not up to the job, right?
Exactly. That's what
But
it feels like.
but it is very good news. And of course, this was from a couple of days ago. Just playing to people just to hear the kinds of questions that the reporters were asking and their aggressiveness toward this head doctor. And he's standing in front of like 10 other doctors, and they're all outside and they have their lab coats on, masks. And I guess the reason for that is doctors can have different specialties. And so in case someone asks a question that someone else will be better at answering, then they could step up to the mic.
Right, right. Which makes sense.
But it doesn't look like a ploy or anything fake, or like we can't actually see Trump and somebody is telling us that he's doing well and fine. No, he was talking and speaking himself. Now, we know that after someone has had coronavirus, we've seen this with several people, including some famous people and actors, is that they can continue to feel lethargic or sleepy and have headaches, and it's like a resonating symptomatic thing that stays with them. They are over the hump and they're going to be all right. So that's to be expected to me. And
Exactly.
he just needs to take it easy.
That's all. Yeah. That's it. And he is a go-getter. I mean, he works hard. He does not slow down. And that's just in his nature. Apparently.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It'll be interesting to see what Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert and late night talk show hosts are going to have to say about this. I mean, this is Monday. They don't work on the weekend. So tonight is the first show. So I don't usually watch them because 95% of what they talk about is Trump in their monologue. And then when they get the guest on the show, they come out. Half of that interview sometimes is about Trump. Like, can we touch and agree? You hate Trump just as much as I do, don't you? All right, good. Let's talk about it. Ah ha ha ha. Let's make some jokes.
yeah. True.
So
It's true.
it'd be interesting to see. Like I said, I just want to see if anybody's gonna have the guts to step aside their team of writers and the jokes that they've written for him and say that you just wish him well. I
Right.
mean, if I told you about a relative of mine that you didn't even know, and I said that they had cancer or anything that caused them to be admitted to the hospital, and you don't even know them,
Mm-hmm.
all right? And then I just take a pause. your reaction at that point is probably going to be, well, I hope that they get better or that they get well soon. If you're a positive person,
Right.
I hope that they have a speedy recovery, something like that.
No.
It has nothing to do with being on the left or the right. It's just if a person is a good natured person and the kind of person that would want to wish someone well. So it'll be interesting to see that and see if they'll have anything positive to say.
Yeah, it will be. I don't know that they will because again, that gets their ratings, or what they assume gets their ratings. How badly can we speak of the president or anything that he's doing or that? So, his name is always in their mouth, and apparently they keep getting ratings off of it. So that's where they go.
And a lot of their audience are haters
Yeah.
and people that want to. It's been a 4-year pity party for some people,
Hmm.
but the key word is party. So it's like, how can we celebrate something negative, and in celebrating also laugh and make fun since we didn't get our way, and those people know who they are.
Hmm.
I'm the kind of person, whoever gets in there, I'm hoping the best for them, and I judge them on a case by case basis as things come their way.
Hmm.
A couple of days before the last election, when it looked like Hillary was going to win, I was kind of preparing myself, if you will, and saying, well, like Obama said in maybe the best speech he ever gave, his exit speech, talking about how campaigning is different from presiding and leading a country,
Hmm.
that hopefully Hillary would get in there. And even if she's, I don't know which is worse, being a puppet or having a bad agenda. But I was just hoping that if she got in there, that she would look at things and try to do the right thing and consult with people that would come up with the best thing. But the party has changed. The Democrat Party has changed a lot, or even if some of the same people are there now, if you know what I'm saying, they're more to the left and more aggressive now than they were 4 or 5 years ago.
Exactly. They were a lot more aggressive, and they've been pulled to the left, so far left. And
Yeah.
I guess they were headed on their way there, but it wasn't as obvious as it is now. I mean, this is
Mhm.
the end result of them continuing to be pulled left.
And I have a hypothetical question I want to throw out for us to discuss for a minute about COVID-19. And I believe that most of the best scientists and doctors on the planet are in the United States. And that's probably a fact
Hmm.
because of people. If you look at the influx of people that come here, who are able to come here to be operated on or to see our surgeons and specialists. However, my question is, what if there was a scientist in a country like Croatia or Switzerland or Ghana or any country, wasn't a very strong country militarily, but they came out with a cure. I'm talking about someone can be injected with a particular drug in the middle, in the bottom, the belly, worst part of this COVID, and they start to get well. Like within a couple of days, they're healed, and there's no resonating symptoms that are carrying over. And of course, with the testing, before you put something out or you sell it or you announce to the public, you do a lot of testing, and this has been true for the last 100 people, 100 people straight, and uh, time is going by. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, no relapse. So for all good purposes, it's called a cure. So if this were to happen in a country outside the United States, they come up with a cure and they don't want to share the cure. What I mean is whatever these elements are, ingredients, or where it comes from, how they found it out, what the origin of it. Not necessarily just to mass produce it and send it out, but it's kind of like you have a great recipe for spaghetti sauce. You don't have to give me the sauce that you made, but you can send me the recipe, which is the ingredients and how to mix it, all the factors of, replicating what you have. And if they don't want to share the recipe, and I'm saying this because this is such a huge pandemic, and more people that have ever died from something in such a short time in the last 95 to 100 years,
Mhm.
then would the United States or any country be justified in invading that country, going in there and forcing them to give us the cure?
I will say no when it comes to if the United States or any other country wanted to invade the country with the cure, that would not serve their purposes, not serve anybody's purposes. I would hope them being a part of the world community that they would want to share it, if not directly with the United States or any other country, that they would share it at least with the World Health Organization, who also has some culpability in this because they've let China get away with this so long. Um, I
Yes.
I don't know, being a like I say, a good citizen of the world, then I would hope they'd want to do that. I think a larger question is, would China or Russia or Iran or any of those other kind of rogue states share it with the rest of the world if they were to come up with a discovery? You know, let's flip that question. So what do you think about that?
It's hard to say. Um, it's one thing when you have disaster going on in your country like China did, and they didn't want the news to get out. It's another thing for you to have kind of a medical or medicinal savior for people that have a terminal illness, and you don't want to share that. Would they be unwilling to share? It's hard to say. Um, it's really hard to say. I think that Russia would be more likely to share with the United States than China, just because Trump has pretty good relationship with Putin.
Mhm.
I mean, at least they talk, at least they've met, which I'm okay with that. Some people, they got mad when Trump met with Kim Jong Un and said, maybe you can come to the White House sometime and visit us there. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not like our country being invaded or them bringing soldiers over here.
Mhm.
They all get together in gangs and watch each other's back like a drug deal in case it goes bad. That's just the way it works.
Mhm.
And I said on another episode, like the origin of the handshake, where it's came from, hey, let me see your hand to make sure you don't have a weapon in it.
Yeah.
So that's okay. Um, and you mentioned China. When you first mentioned, I was thinking them being so big. And I believe I checked earlier this year, and it said the size of China's military is 1.9 million.
Okay.
So to try and coerce them or persuade them to give up something or to share information, that's going to be a little differently than talking to Switzerland or
Right.
meeting at the United Nations and talking to the ambassador. It just I guess I'm kind of changing the scenario or the dynamic of it.
Mhm.
And it, I don't like invasions. I never like doing that. If that happened, I guess what I'm saying, or I would be okay with it more of being a mission to go in there. Hey, you want to send SEAL Team 6 or Rainbow Six in to steal the formula? Have them go in, wearing their wetsuits and the frogmen in the middle of the night, come in and pull their rubber rafts onto the beach, and then go in and steal it and come back. hey, if it got to the point where there was a disease or a pandemic where there was a 10% survival rate instead of 95 or 98, hey, let, let's go in and get with hopefully no one, I can't say no one would get killed in that situation, but with the least number of lives lost as possible.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I just, I definitely wouldn't want to start a war over it because, again, you're trying to save lives and you're ending them trying to save them.
I
Um,
agree.
you
I
know,
agree. Yes.
but it would be interesting to see, or if a country would send in a world agency like the World Health Organization to go
Yeah.
and get it, use them as an intermediary, that sort of thing. So it would be interesting to see, but some nations, I think, like if we discovered it, of course the U.S. would share it with the rest of the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I don't think maybe some other places would.
I'm a fan of Tucker Carlson, who's on Fox News with his program, which is, I think, an hour long. He comes on around the same time as Laura Ingraham, and it makes me want to sit down and have a conversation with him and say, Tucker, how are you able to be such a beast to the people that you have on the show that are 5 feet away from you, and like the way that he puts them on the spot and confronts them, and he's right on the line, except for, of course, he has a great team that checks out all his information and makes sure that everything is right, because I think that as long as you're telling the truth, it's okay to be aggressive with someone.
Mhm.
So that's good. I mean, we remember Glenn Beck that used to be on Fox, and Tucker makes Glenn Beck look mild. I mean, it makes him look. You remember when Glenn Beck, he had a similar show on Fox back in the day, and there was that episode where he was crying, talking about and imagining like the state of the country and how things have changed and gone away. Like Tucker makes him look kind of soft, compared to the way Glenn was, and Glenn Beck pissed off a lot of people.
Glenn Beck is still out there because I listen to him as often as I can. He comes on in the mornings.
Oh, he's on the radio?
Yes, he has the radio. He has the Blaze network. That's his entire
Oh,
network. And it's radio, it's television, podcasts, and of course the news site. And he also has, oh goodness, a lot of folks on there. Oh, I want to say Shapiro, maybe a part of his media organization. I know Mark Levin is, Steven Crowder, the Duck Dynasty folks, and then some other folks sprinkled throughout. So, yeah, he's going strong, and I'm not trying to plug him, but I
no,
do
that's fine.
appreciate
He's good.
his perspective. He talks. Um, more of the history part of it and how people need to be aware about founding fathers and that sort of thing. And of course, he gets into the stories of the day and all of that, but he also gets into that piece. So, but yeah, he's still around. Said all that to say he's still around.
Yeah. And I also want to say I really like Brett Baer, and I think he's one of the best, most professional. He reports the news, investigates something. Sometimes he'll be correspondent in another location, and then Tucker or Laura or someone is sitting behind a desk. They'll ask them a question about the status of what's going on with a Democrat or somebody in the news. And with no emotion, he'll just say the facts of what he knows and what has come out so far.
Yeah.
So I wish there were more journalists like Brett.
Me too. Me too. And he's been recognized for his truly journalistic nature and him just merely reporting the news, not giving any commentary or strange looks or that sort of thing. But he's been recognized for that by his peers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And there is an award for journalism or for broadcast journalism. I can't think of the name of it right now, but that someone can get for just doing a good job in that position.
Mm-hmm.
The only tweet that I had for today, or that I found that I wanted to comment on, was Sean Hannity sharing the news about the NBA Finals, which right now is the Los Angeles Lakers and the Miami Heat are battling it out to see who's going to win. And it is the lowest ratings, if not ever, in a very long time.
Wow. Okay.
Now, Hannity would probably tell you, well, that's because of all of the social justice rhetoric and complaining and these athletes with the slogans on their jersey. And also, LeBron has been very outspoken about Breonna Taylor, and he believes the systemic racism narrative. So I'm sure there are people, I've heard people say that they've turned off all sports because of that.
Yes.
Right. And that kind of speaks to what I was saying last time, is about the purpose of entertainment and sports is to escape. I'm a conservative. I don't want to hear anybody talk about Trumps or conservatives or politics when I'm watching a game. That's just not what I'm going to that for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
But also, here's the thing, is the playoffs are usually in April and May, and then the finals may be in May. So basketball went away for several months, and I think it just lost a lot of people, lost a lot of fans. And then when it came back, there were only like 8 teams left, something like that. They just started the playoffs when it came back, and they had to junk a lot of games that never got to play or finish. And they said, well, we're going to look at the number of wins and losses that teams have now, and they started the playoffs almost right away. So it comes back. The whole summer went by, and people didn't have basketball. I've talked to other sports fans, and it's kind of weird for there to be the finals and the playoffs in the fall. And then when it comes back, you got baseball, football, and basketball all going on at the same time. It has never happened before.
Yeah. Well, during all that time, people have determined that it's not necessary. They're not essential. They're not the most needed thing out there. And then when they come back, all of a sudden they're making a political statement. It's like, you know, they're making at least hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to play a game. And folks, in a matter of 6 weeks' time, were laid off, looking for a job, didn't know where their bills were coming from, that sort of thing. And then you have these people who come back who are still getting paid hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, and now they're taking a knee, or they're whining about oppression and that sort of thing. Totally oblivious to the fact that their customers, their audience, is going through this right now.
Right.
So, that's the audience. It's like they're turned off now. They've already lived without it, and they've gone more than 30 days without it. In some cases, at least 6 months. And it's like, well, it's not in their life anymore. So it's like, okay, whatever. It's just not needed. I mean,
Yeah, they've gotten out of the habit of it. And I understand the primal origin of the need to cheer and be involved in something and to be uplifted with spectator sports where you watch something spectacular or very athletic, and it can dazzle you and make you cheer and all of that. When you go without something, like I was on a diet last week, and it wasn't anything hardcore. It was just no carbs, no sodas, no desserts.
mhm.
And after coming back off of that, then I'm hesitant in getting soda or getting carbs. I'm like, I kind of lost the taste for it for a lot of this stuff. I'm just saying, when you go a certain length of time without something, then you may figure out that you don't need it.
Exactly. You've discovered that it's not essential.
Yeah, right. Like you said. Yeah, yeah.
So it's yeah, and I know I put something on my page about LeBron James. He's been speaking out a lot about the Breonna Taylor case
Hmm.
and how he is oppressed and that sort of thing. Well, three houses in LA, three, I guess they're at least 10,000 square feet, if not more, on average. He's oppressed. He's so oppressed. He has three houses and drivers and gardeners and cooks and endorsement deals and residual income, and but he's oppressed.
And he said that he was oppressed, not his people, or not the race as a group or in general.
I think he said he was oppressed, and then and he also said, I want to say white folks in general.
Well, I
And
remember he talking about Brianna, and that he specified that in a conversation. We was talking about several occasions where black people have been shot by the police, and he said it doesn't feel good to be a part of this and to see this. Yeah, well, that's what happens when people either indulge in criminal activity or they associate themselves with criminals.
that's it. It happens every single time. I
That's
mean,
what's gonna happen. And he may carry some of that. Here's the thing: is you can't just look at what the media is doing and what they're putting out there, because they're wanting people to feel like there's injustice going on and outrage and someone taking advantage of. And I was thinking about, either today or over the weekend, just thinking about the fact, if it's about race, because that's when we see it, right? We see it when a black person is killed by a white person or a white cop. Although, what was this in Florida, where the black man he was unarmed, but he was trying to run over a police officer, and the police officer, who was black, shot him and killed him. That hasn't gotten a lot of attention because they're the same race.
yes, doesn't fit the narrative, and I had not heard that.
You also don't see a lot of stories where black cops kill white people, but that happens a lot.
Yes.
But white people aren't sucking up and believing this thing where they're oppressed, and because they're not a minority, they don't feel, you can't tell them there's systemic racism against white people. It's just, yeah, there's a formula. There's a formula, like the Plinko chips on The Price is Right, where you put the chip up there and then it clink, click, clink, click, clink, and then just comes down through like a maze into a certain hole or a certain notch.
Mhm.
There's a flow chart, you know. And if this happens, then you go left, then you go right. And if this happens, then you make two lefts and a right and then come up. And there's a formula that they use, because there's so many stories or so many cases and things of crime, they know that they can't cover everything, so they're going after the stuff that they think is going to be the most emotional. Translation is going to make a great story. This will make a great story. Yeah, front page.
That's true. That's true. That's what they're doing. Everything is about a click or getting revenue or getting advertisers and revenue from the advertisers and that sort of thing. It truly is.
I want to jump back into the talk about mail-in ballots and bring that up again, because the Democrats are still pushing this hard, like pushing and persuading people, they think so little of people and of people's minds that, again, they're trying to scare people and saying, well, voting in person, that's not safe because of the pandemic, just using that in a political way. And I really believe that this is a part of a plan from the Democrats to ramp up, to get people outraged so that when Trump wins, they'll then come out with all of these mail-in ballots. I don't know who's doing ballot harvesting, or from the ones that are mailed in, they're putting them in a barrel and selling some of them as backup or ammo. But they're trying to plan to come out after Trump wins and say, look, all of these ballots that were not counted, the entire election is a fraud. And Hillary telling Biden, whatever happens, if you lose, don't concede. Like telling him that now, even before the election gets here, even before all the ballots are counted or before everything gets in. And the only reason that I can think of for her saying that is to try to get people, they know that they have supporters and Democrat voters all over the country, probably in all 50 states, that are rioters, to get them outraged so that on November 3rd or November 4th, some of these same rioters can say, oh, whoa, well, wait a minute. They didn't count all the ballots? They didn't get everything in? You mean Biden is really supposed to be president? He really supposed to be in the White House now? Oh, hell no. And then they get the Molotov cocktails back together and then go back out on the street. Not because Democrats necessarily like destruction, although Black Lives Matter and the Marxists and AOC, they maybe do want to see it burn down so that they can build up a totally different system from the ashes. But so that when that rioting starts again after November 3rd, the Democrats can say, well, the reason for this is because people are mad because all the ballots weren't counted. We want justice. We want a recount. We want something. We're going to impeach Donald Trump again in 2021. We haven't thought of the reason why yet, but don't worry, stay tuned. We'll let you know. We'll come up with something. Always think of how long had Trump been in office when Maxine Waters was talking that stuff about impeach 45, standing outside in front of a crowd. I mean, it was less than a year, wasn't it?
I think so. They were trying to impeach him as soon as he got elected.
Right. And if I was a reporter in that crowd, I would have said, Miss Waters, what are your articles of impeachment? Don't matter, baby. Don't matter. We just need to get him out. Because that would have to be your only response, because to say articles of impeachment, that's much more sophisticated than anything she had prepared. Let's just get him out because of his personality, because of the way he's talking. Let's get rid of this guy.
Exactly. And from the people who still it hasn't registered on them that Hillary lost. And by her saying, well, don't concede, regardless of whether or not he concedes, he still lost. So concede or not concede, who cares? Stacey Abrams hasn't conceded yet. She still thinks she's the governor of Georgia. Yet and still, Brian Kemp is the governor of Georgia. So just because he doesn't succeed or doesn't concede does not mean that the race is he's won. It's like facts, data, facts, vote, counting the votes, that sort of thing. And a lot of Democrats have been pushing mail-in voting, like you were discussing earlier. And there's a difference. There's mail-in voting where I'm assuming, mail a ballot to everybody out there and then I guess get them back. And then there's absentee voting where you do mail in your ballot, but you contact your Secretary of State or your elector, request the ballot, they will send you one and you send it back to them. So I hope folks aren't conflating a mail-in ballot with an absentee ballot.
The Postmaster General, he already said, we can't handle it. We can't handle an election if a large number of people try to do this. They don't have enough postal workers to sort through and deliver everything. But oh, look at this. I just looked up sore loser in the dictionary. It's got a picture of Hillary Clinton. It says, see her.
Right.
The epitome. Man, just still singing that song.
Still singing that song.
And she came out with a book. I don't know how it did, but she came out with a book after she lost, talking about the mistakes that she made or how maybe she should have ran the campaign differently.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they're not gonna let it go because they don't want, even though it would be Trump's last 4 years in office, they don't want to build people's trust of the Republican Party and for it to go to Pence or whoever would be the next Republican running for office.
Right.
And I saw a clip from a Rogan podcast a few days ago. He was talking to somebody about the mail-in ballots, and he made a good point. And he's kind of in agreement of what we're saying, that it's ridiculous to say that it's not safe to go out and vote. He said, well, has the COVID-19 stopped people from shopping for groceries? Has it stopped people from going to Jack in the Box? Which is a fast food chain out mostly on the West Coast. But yeah, I see droves of people out every day in lines for different stuff.
Yes. And they're still going out and getting everything they need to get and without taking a break. So again, it gets to the point where a lot of people are questioning, well, is there an agenda behind this? Because honestly, and that's a valid question at this point in time, because you can't stay locked in your basement or at home. You just have to take precautions, behave wisely. If they ask you to wear a mask, and keep going. But you cannot stay locked up in your house. It just does not work.
How do you feel about the early voting where people come out? And I know there were lines last week. I think that's because I don't know if it just started, but there was like a long line somewhere for early voting, people voting the presidential election. But how much do you trust that and trust the early voting compared to coming out on November 3rd to the polls?
I think I'm okay with early voting as well. And from what I understand, early voting is there are limited places around the county or where you live. And they'll open those places so you can go stand in line and vote as if it were voting day, but you're doing it obviously before voting day. And that's done at specified locations according to the Board of Elections. And I think I don't have an issue with that at all. I think, again, there's no reason that someone cannot vote because they've opened so many avenues to get it done. And that begs the question, everyone can vote, but should everybody vote?
And the early voting, that is a great alternative to the people that have concerns about coronavirus and social distancing. But notice the Democrats aren't pushing that as much as they are the mail-in.
Yes.
Think about this, listeners. Think about the fact that you have sent some people birthday cards in the mail and they got them late, and you sent them 2 or 3 weeks in advance. Just think about that. That's a birthday card. And everybody's birthday is on a different day. It's not like there's a deadline for everyone rushing to get something out on the same day. Yeah, mail-in ballots, no. No, I don't trust that. I want to see where it goes. Like at least when you go into the polls and you're at the voter machine and they got the electronic thing now with the cards that you push in and it clicks and you select who you want to vote for on the screen, and
Mhm.
then it takes it. I mean, I understand computers and networks, and I know that it's online or saved or recorded somewhere. To me doing mail-in voting is like writing a letter to Santa Claus and then putting it in the box, and then I look up in the sky and, oh, I'm wondering if it'll make it to the North Pole, 3,000, 4,000 miles away. Maybe Santa will get it. I don't know what that looks like, or never been to the North Pole or the toy factory. But right now we're both looking at the same sun. I know that he's up there somewhere. He'll get it. Man, don't trust it.
Not at all. Not at all. So, and I just saw this. I don't know if you had a chance to see it, or we can talk about it next time. But I saw a video where I think Joe Biden was talking to, oh goodness, I don't know if it was the CDC or some other agency, government agency type. And he stated that the reason that he could quarantine and stay in the house is because some black woman kept the shelves stocked at the grocery store.
Is that how he said it? He said it, that the woman was black.
Yes. Yes, that was, and that could be another topic for another time. But yes,
Yeah,
that's his most
yeah, because
recent statement.
Elmo got questions.
Okay.
I have questiones. I'm wondering what is behind that and why he would say that.
Gotcha. Well, we can save it for the next time then.
Sure,
If you want. Do you have
sure.
any closing thoughts for us?
Yeah, my final thought, this is something I was just thinking the last couple of days, is I'm wondering if the Africans who leave Africa to come to America,
Mhm.
if the Africans who stay behind and don't leave, if they call the ones that are immigrating to America, if they call them a sellout,
Okay. Hmm.
are they calling them, some kind of a sellout, or somehow separate themselves from that person, or say you're not black, you're not African, or do they wish them well?
Hmm.
I wish that I was on that plane with you. Keep
Yeah.
in touch with me. Let me know how well you're doing. I've seen and heard that many Africans leave here and go there and become successful.
Okay.
And they also would never have to tell them, don't forget where you came from, because they don't do that. They bring their culture with them.
Okay.
But I'm just wondering if people in Somalia and Gambia and Zaire are the same as blacks in America, just for somebody leaving, moving to another city, or because someone votes for a different party. If that is enough within the race to create division within the race.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, we will think on that until next time. What do you have for us next time?
Yeah, for next time, that's going to be a few days from now. Don't have anything planned. I just want to update, speaking on Trump's recovery, and as we're getting closer to the election, and then we can also talk about Biden's comment about the grocery store shelf being stocked by a black woman, and that being the reason why.
Yeah. Yes. And on that note, thank you for spending your time with us today. We appreciate you. Leave a review for us wherever you listen to this podcast. And also, we're on YouTube, so leave a review for us there. And thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Brutally Honest Talk Radio. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover, reach out at bruthonest@gmail.com. That's BRUT, honestradio@gmail.com.